And speaking of offers that you don't want to miss, when Jessie Bates got an offer from the Falcons, it was one that he said, hey, I believe in what is being built down there. So I'm going to part ways with the Cincinnati Bengals, whom he spent 5 seasons with. And again, if we're being honest, we have not talked a lot about the secondary because it really has been hashtag pass rush matters. So there was a good reason with what we had seen across the last 5 years. And I would say you've seen even longer because it goes back. Some people will say it goes back to the John Abraham era when you really saw a pass rush for the Falcons. Right. Yes. So that's why we have spent so much time really focusing on what's happening up front. Also, we did it because we were confident about what was going to happen in the secondary. Well, Jessie Bates absolutely confirmed that for us. I mean, it's so funny because the words, I just want to read this really quickly. And this is from Pro Football Focus. Bates signed with the Falcons as a free agent this offseason. He enjoyed about as good a debut as you can imagine, picking off 2 passes, finishing the game with a 92.9 coverage grade. Out of this world. So yeah, I just feel like sometimes we look and we're like, oh wow, that was a high cost to pay for Jessie Bates III. Oh, I think he already earned checks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. If he can, not necessarily asking him to have 2 picks a game, like, so Lord
and
knows,
a forced fumble
34 picks, right. In a season would be absolutely amazing. Yes, no doubt about it. Yes, but to just see the type of player that he is, and I want to go back to before the Falcons were even thinking about signing him, because I was staunchly against it just for the reasons you laid out, because I am used to the Falcons not being able to rush the passer. And I know what effective pass rushers can do for a back end of a defense. It can hide a lot of things. But I think that when you fast forward to after the game, when I got a chance to talk to Jessie, and I was just like, man, like, what is it? Like, what are some of the things that you saw on tape that helped you be in the right position to pick those balls off? Because essentially they were same type. It was the same type throw, right there on the hash. And Jessie kind of just broke that bad boy down just from a film standpoint. Just, hey, we saw this. This is what we realized. And then I knew once that ball was snapped, I knew exactly where he was going. And I was just sitting right there waiting on him. So those are some of the type of things that I feel like that's what changes opinions, right? Because, I use facts, simple facts that, that are what I've seen to change the way I think about, Jessie Bates in particular. Because, like, I always say, hey, hashtag pass rush matters. Like, I'm going to stick to that moniker till I leave this earth. But in this particular situation, T, like, that $16 million is looking like a bargain because, to be honest with you, he's the reason why they won the game. Like,
oh yeah, no question.
Because the offense was able to score off of those turnovers. So he just like he gave him a short field. That makes the difference. That's the difference when you talk about between teams who can't really rush the passer that well, but they can turn teams over. Yep. If that's the identity, I'm all for it.
And we talked about that. That was one of the keys to the game was for the defense to make sure they gave Desmond Ridder a short field to work with so that when they got in that red zone, they could actually produce touchdowns. And that is exactly what happened. And that's what you need to see again. And you need to see it up front and early. We'll start talking about week 2's game against the Packers because we saw them light up the Bears, right? Yeah. 38-20. So Justin Love, I mean, he's coming for blood. So, they definitely have to be prepared. But a guy like Jessie Bates III, who gave us a little scare at the end of the game, but wanted to come back out, I believe, just to make a statement to say, no, I'm good. I'm here. And I can appreciate that kind of effort because that's also something that I feel like spurs on your teammates. But you know what else I like about him? I like the fact that when I looked down the stat line, I also saw 10 tackles. And I also saw 5 solo tackles. So to me, that means he's looking at it as a united front for the defense. Like, yeah, if you happen to get to the second level, I got something for you. So I really appreciate that as well, because that also shows me that there is, physicality that we're going to see out of him, no matter, where he's lined up and no matter who's coming his way. So I think that's another thing that I really wanted to point out for him. And Jordan Love, excuse me, I said Justin, but it's Jordan Love. But yeah, that's another thing that I want to, pay attention to, because like you said, if there's help that needs to be brought anywhere, you'd like to think that on that second level, if a receiver or even a running back gets past the defensive line, that somebody's waiting on them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you talking about the free safety being that guy, the last line of defense essentially, but he's like the cleanup man. Like, if anything going on up front, that might be wrong. I'm cleaning that bad boy up, and he was just all over the field. Like 3 was just everywhere. I'm just like, man, this dude is everywhere. So when you think about the type of player or the caliber of player Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith decided to bring in, you really, really get a good picture into what he's capable of, and you understand why this dude was an All-Pro.
Yeah, indeed. And, when you look across the whole defense, that's kind of where your mind goes, right? Like, because he had an unbelievable game. But since we have talked a lot about the fact that pass rush matters, let's talk about the rest of the defense and whether or not, Jarvis, you had any glaring concerns of what you saw in game 1.
To be honest with you, T, like one of the things that that I liked when they brought Calais Campbell in, right? And because he said one of the reasons why he came here was because, hey, they were going to allow him to play defensive end.
Yep. And
to be honest with you, I love Calais to death, but I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be effective for you. And because here's the reason why I say that. Arnold Ebiketie hardly played at all. Like, I think he was like, if I remember correctly, I think let me check it right here. I got it. I think he only played 23 snaps, on Sunday. So when you think about your second round guy that you brought in to rush the passer, the guy who changed his number for whatever reason, and he just wasn't a part of that rotation that you thought he was going to be, especially on pass rush down, because Zach Harrison actually played more than him. He did. Yes. And I was just like, okay, this kind of scares me, because like you said, like this guy was brought in for specifically, he was drafted here by this regime to come in and rush the passer. And when you got a 38-year-old defensive end, taking snaps from him, like literally pass rush snaps from him, get to the quarterback snaps from him, that's not a good look. And that's my biggest concern as far as, from Sunday. I was just like, because once Bryce Young started to get a little comfortable in that pocket, he was slinging the ball around. He was completing passes. He was getting there. Of course, he had a couple errant throws, a couple turnovers. Yeah, I get it. But if you give any NFL caliber type quarterback time to throw, they're gonna make you look silly. And that's exactly what Young did from time to time, because the Panthers, they had the Falcons defense on their heels for a second. They had to figure that thing out. And then but Ryan Nielsen made the necessary adjustments towards the end, and started putting pressure on the young quarterback. So I think that, that's my biggest thing. I'm sitting here like, okay, Arnold Ebiketie is not playing that much. And this dude needs as many snaps as possible to be able to get home. And if you got a guy of Calais Campbell's ilk taking those snaps from him, that might tell you something about him as a player going forward.
Yeah, that was disappointing and a little bit puzzling, because Ryan Nielsen was rotating so many players in and out.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like
a hockey line, T.
Right. It's like a feast or famine situation where you're not going to get a lot of snaps because he's rotating players in and out. However, getting the multitude of snaps, that's what you want. You at least want to be the guy who, okay, if 3 of us rotated out, I want to be the guy in the one spot that got the most reps. And I heard Zach Harrison's name far more on Sunday than I expected to, which is a good thing. That's not a bad thing, because, he's still a third rounder, and that could still be a viable player, no different than your third round QB. And the only other player, and it's not a concern, like I just wanted him to.
I just want to correct something real quick. He played 23% of the snaps, not 23 snaps. 23% of the snaps, only 18 snaps. So that's kind of interesting.
It is actually, it actually is, because then the 23% actually gives an even better picture, because that's saying if there are 4 downs, for example, and we know, it might be a 3 and out situation, right?
Right.
But if there are 4 downs and the opposing team decides, hey, we're going to go for it on 4th and 1, or we're going to go for it on 4th and whatever, only one of those 4 plays were you in. That is scary, and really less than one at 23%.
Less than one. Yeah.
If you really want to, slice it and dice it. But the other
that makes it very clear.
Yeah. And the only other one I thought that's right, clear as mud. But I would say the only other that I saw, and it's not a bad, he didn't have a bad game. I think it was just kind of up and down. And just a few times where I was a little shocked that Richie Grant kind of missed the assignment. But again, I'm not saying he had a bad game. I'm just saying that my expectation of him has been a little bit higher because he kind of put that out there. So I'm looking for you to show improvement. I didn't feel like I got that from him on Sunday.
Yeah, like it was kind of open field tackle that he missed there. So yeah, you being that he's a pretty solid tackler, you expect him to make that play. And then also, like since you talking about raised expectations, pick the ball off. Jesse Bates even said, he was like, hey man, Richard Grant could be the guy to get a couple picks as well. So you can tell that Jesse is like really pushing him. And I think that it's definitely some mentoring going on in that space. And I think that's exactly what Richard Grant needs. But yeah, go ahead and make the play. Get your name in the paper. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Right. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, because you need to be that guy. Like Jessie Bates III needs to feel like he's got a partner in crime. Like if he doesn't get after it for whatever reason, maybe he doesn't get the pick on this play, but you guys have figured out what that quarterback's going to do the next play. Okay, Richie Grant, time to shine. Time to shine. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about the matchup between the Falcons and Packers is coming this Sunday. But hey, you guys, was there someone on defense? We all know it's going to be Jessie Bates III that you're going to say shined. So we'll just ask you the question like we posed to you yesterday, which is, did you see anyone on defense that maybe concerned you, or any performance on defense that maybe concerned you a little bit? Drop a line, drop a note, let us know, everydayers. You can drop it right there at YouTube when you're checking us out, or when you download ATL Day Ones, make sure that you download us right along with all the podcasts that you listen to.